definition of closing. So I went to the dictionary and I looked at this. What came up in the dictionary was to complete the final details or negotiations on whatever you're negotiating on. Now, sadly, what I think is a lot of people think that closing comes to being the final thing. So we leave it right until the end, until sometimes it's too late. The other definition when I looked at to close or closing was to bring together all the elements or parts of. Now, in my mind, when I think of closing, that's what I'm thinking of. Is I'm thinking right from the beginning, am I continually bringing together, and note the words, all the elements or parts of those elements that are coming together. Now, for me, that means not only in sales what you're trying to get across, but also bringing together the parts and the elements that the client is needing, and essentially that comes down to the client's problems. So, does anyone have any questions so far? If you do, just put up your hand, open your mic, and ask a question, and I'll do my best to answer that based on what we've talked about so far. Or any question around closing that we can start adding in. Okay, no questions yet. Okay, cool. So when it comes to sales, when it comes to closing, I've already said this. You want to close right from the beginning. So from the moment you connect with someone, from the moment you start speaking to someone, you need to be closing. Now, it probably even starts before you initiate conversation with anybody. The first close actually comes from yourself. You know, right up front, what is your objective for the activity that you're taking? What I've experienced with many people, entrepreneurs, salespeople, is that they're not clear on the objective of what they want. So if I pick up the phone, my objective, for example, to close could be setting up an appointment. If I meet somebody and they're a stranger and maybe I'm prospecting them, my objective in the close would be to get their business details, build some rapport, and get a number. So very rarely have I observed people closing on the first sort of connection. Very rarely. However, what I see is many people think that that's what it's all about. It's about closing. So when I pick up the phone and I've never spoken to Cornelia, for example, what happens is I'll pick up the phone and without building any form of relationship, I expect that I'm going to close a deal there and then. I've just learned in the years that I've been in sales that very rarely happens. Closing is a process. You know, when you study and you read some of the research around connection, around closing, there's a number of different researchers that state people will buy after a minimum of 5 or 6 connections, right up to as much as 13 or 14. So, you know, how many of you have experienced a telesales guy pick up the phone, immediately go straight into a pitch and expect to close you on a new product? By a show of hands, how many of you are not interested in buying when it comes to something like that? No relationship, no, it's just straight in, and what you start feeling is you start feeling sold to. Does that make sense? So be clear on your objective right up front. What is your objective? What do you want to get out of the action that you're taking? So objective. The second thing is, don't be pushy, rather pull. Now, I'm going to teach you a little technique just now and take you through what I believe the core skill in selling is. But too many people fear going into sales because they believe that you've got to push people into places to do the things that they don't want to do. Just by a show of hands on this call, how many of you have experienced that before? Either you've experienced someone trying to push you, or you've either experienced trying to push people and you didn't really like the fact that you had to push people to try and convince them or make them do something that you felt they didn't really want to do. How many of you experienced that before? Yep. No one experienced that? Oh, good. Thank you, Natalie. So I'm going to ask you. Brilliant. Thank you, Richmond. Great. So it's this. It's don't be pushy. Rather pull the information out of prospective clients. And it's closing is a little bit like an art or a craft form. It takes a process. It takes time, but you want to pull information and then work with the information that you pull to craft the close and then ultimately close the sale. Is this making sense to you guys? Is this helping? Okay, good, thank you. So the other thing, and I've said this a few times now, is that it's essential to realize that one, sales is a process, but importantly, closing is a process. It's a process that one can be learnt, two can be mastered, but people that are really good closers understand that process starts, as I said, right from the beginning of the interaction and goes all the way through to beyond the end of the deal. So it's essential that you focus on the process of closing, not on the fact that I need to close. We have a saying that says that, we call it commission breath. You can smell a desperate salesman. I don't know about you guys, but in South Africa, at the end of the month, when I walk into a car dealership, for example, I can smell the desperate sales guys because they come up to you so fast. They are all over you, and the only person they're interested in is themselves and the commission that they're going to earn. How many of you have experienced that before? So we call that commission breath. One, in the close, you do not want to be desperate. It doesn't matter where your business is at, doesn't matter how badly you need to close deals, never be desperate. People can smell desperation. Okay. The other thing about the process is this. Just remember, in order to get yeses, and you all would have heard this, you've got to get no's. The old cliche in sales is a numbers game. And you've got to apply, you have to apply through the yeses and the no's in order to build that up. So through that process, and the other side of a no doesn't always mean a no either. In the Sales Explosion program that I teach, and the program that I'll be coming at the end of March to teach in Zurich, is one of the key things that we teach people is how to handle objections, how to get through that no essentially without convincing the client, rather teaching the client how to convince themselves. So not pushing, rather pulling, and understanding that you go through that process. So in closing takes time. I've had deals, for example. I've just closed a deal now in my training business that's taken me a year and a half. It's taken me a year and a half and probably about 20 or 30 meetings, proposals, get back, but right from the inception of when I first started talking to the people that I was talking to, I knew that when the timing was right, the close would come. But it was essential that I was prepared to put the time into the deal. Is that making sense? A lot of times people in closing are not prepared to put the time in. Sales is a time-based business. So you have to put the time in, and what you're doing is you're waiting for the client to have the right timing. Now, there's a number of tools and techniques that you can use that can compress the timing. That's speeding up the amount of activity you have. That's creating levels of urgency, all those type of things. But essentially, a close is dependent on two things: time and timing. If you're not ready to buy a car right now, you might be thinking of buying a new car. But if you're not ready right now, doesn't matter how hard the sales guy pushes you, you're not going to buy, are you? He can offer you all the deals, he can tell you everything, but if you're not really in the market right at this time, and the timing's not right, you're not going to buy. So how many times have you experienced that you'll meet someone, they'll push you hard for a sale, it's not the right timing, and you'll never hear from them again. Yet 6 months, 12 months, a year down the line, the timing is right, you might buy a new car. And that particular salesman was nowhere to be seen, because the only thing they focused on is, I need to close you now. So the other part of the process is, the more people that you're speaking to, the more people you're channeling into your funnel, the more opportunity you have of creating better timing with people. So the other failing that I see in a lot of people when it comes to closing is they're just not speaking to enough people. Sometimes people say to me, wow, you get lucky in sales. I just go, no, I just speak to a lot of people. So, yeah, whatever you want. The reality is, the more work I do, the better the opportunity I have of finding the right people whose timing is right now. The less people I'm speaking to, the less chance I have, and it reduces my stats down to so it limits the opportunity of me finding the right people who are looking right now. So an example, if there was 1,000 people on this webinar, the opportunity for me to find the timing with 10 people would be far greater than if we had 10 or 15 people on this call. Does that make sense? So you guys all understand that the numbers. In sales, it's also, it's a game of how many times do we pick up the phone? How many times do we walk through the door? How many times do we prospect people? How many times are we interfacing with clients and creating the top of the funnel? And that dramatically increases our opportunity to close. And to be honest, doesn't matter how bad you are at sales, the more work you do, the luckier you will get. I often, my clients in South Africa laugh because I say this, look, you could be the worst salesperson in the room. You could be the worst salesperson on this call. But if you get out and go do way more work than anyone else and meet way more people, doesn't matter how bad you are, someone's going to feel sorry for you and they will buy. And once you have one person feeling sorry for you and they buy, you're in the game. Once you're in the game, you service them, you keep going, and you keep doing that, you'll get better and better and better and learn. And in my experience, that's what creates some of the greatest salespeople that I've worked with anyway. I mean, when I first started selling, I was actually pretty shy. I didn't really like speaking to strangers. My little voice had a big thing about standing up and connecting with strangers or just stopping people. I was pretty shy. But the one thing that right from the beginning, one of my mentors told me is, Barry, it doesn't matter where you sit, sales is an activity game. The more deals you want to close, you just got to get out and go knock on doors, meet people, pick up the phone. In today's modern world, we have such a big opportunity. When I started selling nearly 30 years ago, we didn't work on Facebook and social media and all that sort of stuff. I learned my sales techniques in the game of knocking on doors and picking up phones. Now, with today's modern technology, man, it just escalates the opportunity to close sales much quicker and create results at a far better pace. But it doesn't matter how good you are at Facebook and how good you are at connecting with people over the internet. At some stage, you're going to have to close them into something. And my experience is that closing comes from a personal one-on-one interaction where people connect with you and they build trust and they build something. One of the questions we ask often, and I've seen it on, Blair asks it a lot in his seminars, is how many of you have ever seen somebody close a multi-million-dollar, pound, euro, franc deal on the internet? Now, not build an internet-based business, but physically close a deal on the internet. My experience with myself, the bigger the deal, the closer I want to get to the people that I'm doing the deal with. And if I'm buying, I know, if I'm going to spend, I don't know, $1 million on a property, I want to actually be able to go to the property to be able to do the deal with the person to the extent that I'll buy an air ticket, fly wherever I have to do to go and get that done. But I might make a lot of connections over the internet, Zoom, Skype, and that sort of thing. So the bigger the game you want to play, the bigger the deals you're going to close, the more people you want to connect with, the better you have to become at communicating and connecting with people. Does that make sense? So let's go back to this. So one, you've got to close from the beginning. You need to be clear on your objective, and your objective is not always just to get money out of the client. Your objective could be set up an appointment, open the door, get a name, get a number. There's a number of objectives, but every time you're going into the interaction, are you clear on what the next step is and what your objective is for that? The second thing is, do not be pushy, rather pull. And I'm going to teach you how to pull and give you some tools and techniques right now. And the third one is, sales and closing is a process. It starts in the beginning and it goes all the way through. And if you just follow the process, I'm going to give you 6 steps. If you follow that process and you pick up on this thing that is not pushy, rather it's pulling, you'll dramatically change how you close people and how you create results. So before I move on, any questions or any comments? Anyone want to get, anything you want to ask? Either type it in the chat box, or just open up your mic and put up your hand, open up your mic, and
hello, Barry, can you hear me? Hello, Barry? Can you please, a show of hands, who hears me? Can you hear me, guys? Yes? Okay, Barry, you seem to be frozen. Hello? Barry, you're back. Can you hear me?
Got you. I can hear you. Sorry, I lost connection. Okay, good. So,
okay.
Any questions? Yeah, Natalie.
Yes, please. Can you please give us an example for a pulling situation in a sales position?
Say that again.
Can you give us an example of pulling? What do you mean by that? Pull your customer.
Okay, great. So just now, what I'm going to teach you is that for most people are going out selling, and some of you might have heard this, that selling is not telling. Yet most people go try sell by telling. I have a great product. I am the best. I am this. You need me because I can fix you. So for me, that's pushing. Pulling is, Richmond, why would you like to learn how to sell? Well, if you could double your sales, what would be the reason for that? Lightstone, if you could do this and you could do that and you could communicate with people in a better way, why would you want to do that? So that's pulling. So what I'm doing is, if you notice, that's just the art of asking questions. When you ask questions, you connect in somebody else's world, you uncover where they sit. I believe this in sales. You in the process, to a degree, is actually irrelevant. You need to be in there and you have relevance in connecting, but how good you are and who you are and how important you are and how great your product is and all that, in the scope of the client, is irrelevant. The only relevance is the client. What problems they have, who they are, what they need to solve. And, I have a saying that says this: it's all about them, it's not about you. Too many people are pushy in terms of, it's all about me. You need me, and I want you to buy from me, rather than what is it that you actually need. The reality is this, is for many times, that client might need you, but as I said, with time and timing, maybe not now. That client might actually, funny enough, have absolutely no desire to ever buy from you. And I've learned this. Some people actually just don't like me. So when I push and they actually don't like me because there's no connection, I'm never ever going to make a sale. I'm just going to annoy them even further. So I'm just in the field of sales. I'm just looking for people who are looking for me, and I find those people by pulling information out of them. And that's the key skill in selling, is not telling but asking questions. The key skill in closing is not telling, it's asking questions. And it's a learned skill. Why is it a learned skill? Because if you went to school, and I'm going to assume that most of you are like, all of you are like me, you all went to school, yes. Some of you went to school for a lot longer than I did. How many of you, like me, you went to school for as short a period as possible? But some of you, so you went to school. And the reality is, school teaches us to do what? To tell. You know, is that fair? So how do you pass school? My mother's a teacher. A teacher tells you a whole lot of information, and the better you tell the teacher that information back, the better you pass. So we're conditioned and wired that when somebody asks us a question, especially a client, when a client says, so Natalie, what have you come to sell me? What happens is people think, whoa, this is all about me. I can tell them everything about me. And then what we do is we just go and I call it, we vomit information all over them about us. This is me. And at the end of it, they say, that's nice. Well, we'll get back to you. We'll give you an email. We'll discuss it. And I'll ask you this. How many of you have experienced that? And you're still waiting for the email, for the board meeting, for someone to phone you back? And when I watch people walk out of that situation, what happens is they go, man, I nailed it. They gave me half an hour, and I told them this and told them that. And I asked them one question. That's great. But what is the key problem that they have? Oh, I don't know, but they loved my presentation. So the key thing is, for me, if a client, if I'm in a presentation and someone says to me, so Barry, what do you do? My whole aim is to get, I'm always going to introduce myself, and I'm always going to connect with them, but I want to do it very fast. So in the Sales Explosion, what we'll teach you is we'll teach you how to create a 30-second or a 60-second introduction, so that when you're in a presentation situation and a client says, so what have you come to sell? Al, do you want to ask a question? I can see you waving your hand.
Komplett auszahlen und irgendwann wäre Schluss. Oder du lässt, nee.
Hallo Al, soll ich für dich übersetzen? Al? Hallo? Okay, maybe that's a misunderstanding.
Okay, so where was I? So your goal is to get into their world as quick as possible. So in the Sales Explosion program, we'll teach you how to connect, how to get into their world fast. And that simply comes from, if I'm in a presentation and someone says to me, so Barry, what have you come to sell? Immediately I'll say something like this. Great, thank you for asking. Just by way of introduction, my name is Barry Mitchell. I have a business called Uncovering Greatness. For over 25 years, I've worked with thousands of individuals and hundreds of businesses all around the world to help them dramatically explode their sales and increase their income in their business and in their life. We've been able to get results from 20% to as much as 300 or 400%. And then what I'll do is I'll say, so how are you guys doing in creating results in your sales right now? Or do you have a sales team? How are they performing right now? Immediately what I'll do is I'll introduce myself, and then I'll go straight into a question, because I know this. When I ask people questions, they give back answers. And what happens is right in the beginning of a presentation, I don't end up talking about me or my business. I end up uncovering and pulling information from them. So You know, if I might ask a question like, so how many salespeople do you have in your business? We have 20. Okay, good. So I'm going to hazard a guess that of those 20 salespeople, 5 are really good, 8 are in middle of the road, and 3 or 4 are not that good. And they'll probably say yes, and they'll give me some stats. Now we start discussing, and then I'll ask them a question. If I could, if you, not if I could, not if my techniques, if you could take the top 20% of those 8, so 2 or 3 of those sales guys, and turn them into the top 5, part of the top 5, and you could take 1 or 2 of the bottom guys and turn them into the middle guys, what difference would that make in your business? And what they do is they start giving me answers, telling me, I go, great. And that creates a discussion, and now I pull information, and then I'll get to the end and I'll say, great. So in the program that I run, one of the things that we work on is X, Y, Z, going back and addressing their problems with the solution that I have. Does that make sense? But now I have an interested customer. Does that make sense? Are you guys getting some value out of this? You learning something? Cool. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Cornelia. Okay, great. So thank you, Bjorn. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to share the screen here. Okay. Okay, good. So and as I said, you got to make it all about them. It's all about them. It's not about you. So a key component is when you're making it all about them, you engage with them first. So it's essential that you engage. Can you guys see the PowerPoint? You can't see the PowerPoint. Okay, hold on. Let me go back into here. Okay, hopefully you'll be, there we go. Okay, so, okay, good. Is that better, Natalie? Can you see that? Okay, great. So I'm not used to using PowerPoints. I work on flip charts like most people in VSTA. So one of these days we'll develop. Sometimes I actually do webinars with the camera straight onto the flip chart, which makes it a lot more interactive and fun. So anyway, okay, so moving on. So you would have heard me just now talk about the key thing that I want to uncover when I'm pulling is I want to find a problem. Because I've learned this, that people buy because they have problems. You know, it doesn't matter what you buy. You go buy milk because you don't have any milk. It's a problem. You'll replenish your coffee if it's running low and you can see that you're going to run out soon. Yes, you buy a new pair of running shoes because your running shoes are tired. For most people, we have a problem. So when we go and purchase, we purchase in order to satisfy the need, and because we have a need, it signifies there's some form of problem. Does that make sense? So in order for anyone to purchase based around a problem, in order for you to make any form of connection or create any form of business out of solving that problem, would you agree you have to have a solution? Yes? So it's essential that you have a solution. Now, this is where a lot of people fall down in sales, is they understand the problem that the client has, and they have the solution that solves the problem. But what they end up doing is they end up telling the client, you have a problem, I have the solution, and I can come and fix your problem. So let me ask you this. If you met me for the first time or the second time, and I told you that you have a whole lot of problems, how many of you wouldn't really like me that much? Because none of us really like being told we have problems, do we? Even if we know that those problems exist. But we don't mind uncovering in our own mind that we have a problem. Is that making sense? So once you have a solution, the only way that anyone will, well, some people just purchase because they like to spend money. But the average majority of people The majority of people will make a buying decision in a business scenario. The majority of people will make a buying decision based on the solution covering the problem if they get a benefit, only if they get a benefit. It doesn't matter how good your solution is, if the client cannot connect to the benefit, they're not going to buy. And if they do buy, they'll get things like buyer's remorse, they'll be unhappy afterwards, they'll feel misled down the road, and that's when you just have customer issues. So the next step is the customer, you've got to link the benefit to the solution. What's the solution and what's the benefit for utilizing that solution? Once you have the benefit, then it's essential that you have an offer. Now, sadly, this is where I see a lot of salespeople fall down, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners fall down, is that they do all the hard work, and even if they're telling, and a customer will say, okay, so how much is it going to cost me? And that's when they say, oh, I'd have to go back to my office and I'll do an email and send you the information. I'll have to work it out. Often it's gone. So you need to know your offer. What are you selling for, and can you put it on the table? Look, some of you might be selling very technical products, maybe you're in IT and those type of things. But in that case, I believe you've got to be able to give someone a ballpark figure. So, if someone says to me, Barry, if you come and do Sales Explosion with my team, we have a team of 30 people in the business, what's it going to cost me? I have to there and then give them an idea, there and then. So what it's going to cost you is, if I come in for a team of 30 people with, I don't know, and it's 2 days, and I cover the venue, and I do this and I do this, you'll be looking at, I don't know, somewhere around about $10,000 US. Okay, but I've given it to them. Now what I'll do is quantify or qualify and say, so I've given you a ballpark figure. How does that sound? Is that something you're looking for? Okay, great. What I'll do is now I'll go back to my office and I will formalize the quote, and I'll send you some options around that ballpark figure. But I know the offer, and they know the offer, which means immediately I know whether I'm in the game or out of the game. I see too many salespeople going, okay, so, oh, good, send me a quote. They walk back to the office and they say, I've closed a deal. And I go, okay, good, how? Well, the client wants a quote. He's really keen. I go, did you speak to him about the price? No. I said I'd email it to him. What I've learned is this: the majority of those type of deals never close. Because we're not talking the person through the process of where we're going. How many of you can associate with that? Okay, good. So once you have an offer, now comes to the holy grail, if you want, and the one thing that most people are so worried about, and that's closing. How do I close? What is it that I need to do when I get there? I need to close. And what I'm going to do is just now I'm going to show you, and if you get good at this process, this will be the least of your worries. It'll be the least of your worries. In the Sales Explosion program, I take you through this process for a couple of hours. You'll practice it, you'll learn it, you'll apply it, you'll implement it, and you'll learn how to master this process. But for now, if you take away what I'm taking you through today, and you get this idea, and you understand this process, you'll dramatically change how you connect with people, and I guarantee you'll dramatically change how many deals you close and how many opportunities you actually open. So once you close, now again, a failing of many people, we close, money's in the bank, we're gone. Woo. For me, this is where sales really, really begins, and that's on this. You've got to deliver, but delivery is part of ongoing following up, connection, adding value, all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure most of you probably would have heard things like determining client lifetime value, adding value to people for a longer period of time rather than just closing the deal today. How many of you have, I don't know, I've experienced it. I've bought a number of motor vehicles over my life. I've never bought from the same sales guy, because once he's closed the deal or she's closed the deal, I've never heard from them ever again in my life. For the 3 or 4 weeks while I was making a decision, I heard from them all the time. When are you going to buy? What can I do? What can I do? closed the deal, undid the ribbon, they're gone. Now, I bought my first car when I was 19 or 20. I'm now 48. Okay, so in 28 years, if I just quickly do a calculation, I've probably bought 8 or 9 cars. Now, what was the opportunity of me buying at least 50% of those from one sales guy over that period of time, because he built a relationship with me over time? I also now have an 18-year-old daughter. I'm about to buy another car, unfortunately, because she's going to get her license and do those type of things. That could have been another car. So the sales process, when you get good at connecting with people and following through on the delivery and the follow-up, is essential. Is that making sense? Any questions? Any questions before I move on? You good? Okay, great. So I talked about the difference between telling and asking questions. Now, this essentially is what happens with most people, or many people, when it comes to sales, is they do this. They tell that you have a problem. They tell the client that they have the solution. They tell the client what the benefit will be. They tell the client the offer, and they don't close. And then sadly, they fail to deliver. If they do close, often they drop the ball on the delivery. So how many of you have experienced that? How many of you have experienced that personally in selling? You do a whole lot of work, you tell, you think you've nailed it, get to the end, and nothing happens. See, the art of the close, the art of following this process comes from this. You ask the client a series of questions to pull and uncover their problem. Does that make sense? If I was to ask each one of you what problems you have when it comes to generating income, I guarantee you on this call, every single person would have a very different reason on why we have problems, or why we need to make money, or what the problem is that we need to make more money. Some of you might be making a lot of money right now, but you might have a team of people, and the problem is they don't make any money. Some of you might not be making money. Some of you might need money right now to get out of debt. Some of you are not in debt. But if I asked different questions, I would uncover the problem for each person. Now that's your problem. Now, I can either tell you the solution, or really what I'm going to encourage you to do is, again, ask. This is a game of asking questions. So you would ask things like, so if you could do this, so if you were able to do X, Y, and Z, would that help? If you could learn 6 steps that would dramatically change how you did things, would that help? Well, I'll ask you, how many of you have realized in this discussion that maybe asking questions are a critical piece to closing and sales? Okay, good. How many of you are starting to think that you might ask questions, but maybe you could get a lot better at asking questions? Okay, good. So now what I would ask you is, if you could ask a lot more questions and connect with your clients in a much better way, what do you think would happen to your business? What would be the benefit to you? You know, some of you, if you have kids, if you could connect with your kids to their problems and uncover what type of solution you could help them with, not tell them a solution, and uncover the benefit for them doing it, how many of you think that just as a parent, this process could dramatically change your relationship with your kids, your spouse, your friends, your business partner? So can you see how just by asking questions, I'll be able to uncover a lot more of benefits, but they're very different benefits to all types of people. So you got to ask the benefit, because once I ask the benefit, then I have a focus on my offer. So let me just say, so I'll say that. So let's say that your benefit is if I learn how to ask more questions, I'd be able to increase my customer base. And if I could increase my customer base by 20%, I would earn an extra, I don't know, 100,000 francs this year. Okay, good. Great. So let me ask you this. In order to learn how to do questions, would it be worth spending 2,000 francs on a program that would teach you this, this, and this, that would allow you to master the art of asking questions, which would allow you to master the art of going through problem, solution, benefit, offer, close, so that you could create that 20% result? Now, the reality is this. For some people, 2,000, it will be worth it. For other people, they'll go no. Why? Because it's essential that if you're going to close, the cost of the solution has got to be lower than the return of the benefit. Now, I'm going to say that again. The cost of the solution has got to be lower than the perceived return of the benefit to the person that's going to buy. Does that make sense? Okay, so if I make an offer for 2,000 francs that I'll spend 2 days teaching you this program so that you can master it, and your benefit is that you think you can make 100,000 francs a year more, but you do not see the perceived benefit of spending 2,000 francs to generate 100,000 francs, you're not going to take me up on my solution. Does that make sense? If you see the perceived benefit of spending 2,000 francs to create your benefit of 100,000, boom, you're in the game. So it's connecting the solution to the benefit to the offer, and when the cost of the offer, in order to get the solution, is lower than the perceived return of the benefit, people will buy. Does that make sense? So, like I said just now, in the Sales Explosion program that I'm going to do in Zurich with Natalie at the end of March, this is a process that I'll take you through step by step. Not only take you through it, you'll drill it, you'll learn it, you'll practice it, and not only will you practice it, you'll put it into practice so that you can create results in those 2 days. Now, this is what I've learned when you get good at doing this. You see, on the right-hand side is ask, tell. Why tell on the offer? Because I know the offer. This is the other thing I see people making a mistake on. Sometimes they'll ask, and then they'll ask, so what would you pay for that? I don't ask that. I go, this is what it costs. Are you in the game or not? Because I know the offer. You've got to be clear on your offer. That's when you tell. And when you get good at doing this, I've learned this. The right people ask. They go, man, that sounds good. How can I get it? How could I do it? Where could I buy it from? What do I need to do in order to be involved? Where would I? Does that make sense? And what you'll learn is that sales becomes so much, I'm going to say easier, but so much happier, because you're out connecting with, if you're filling the top of the funnel and you're asking questions and you're solving problems and you're helping other people uncover their problems, now what you're doing is you're pulling and you're having people that start connecting with you and phoning you. You know, I've been in the business, in this particular business, for over 10 years. And now I get to the stage where now people will phone me and they ask, hey, we spoke about this a while ago, we did this, can you come and do this? But it's a process. It's a process of connect with people, uncover what they want, uncover their problems, talk about a solution. If you could do this, uncover their benefit. And I see them, you know, I'll go, hey, Natalie, last time I spoke to you, you said that your cash flow is really tight. Have you solved that problem? What are you doing? So I'll connect back to the problem that they had. And if they say, yeah, I'll go, good, what did you do? Now, does that make sense? All about building a relationship. Once they ask, it goes back to you, and essentially you deliver. You deliver, you follow, you keep them in your world, and you take them through that process. And when you do that, you'll dramatically shift how you sell. You'll dramatically shift how you connect with people. And it all comes back to uncovering their problems, not pushing your perceived problems that you think they might have. You know, because I don't know, I'm pretty sure you've learned this. We never know people until we think we really know people. And then we find stuff out when we actually get in their world and go, wow, I never knew that. But you've got to get that out of asking questions. When you do that, you can help people create results. That's the power of selling. The art of selling is helping people solve problems, but finding the right people who have the problem that you can solve. And when you do that with the right people, you create ongoing sales after ongoing sales and build a community around you of customers who you're serving. So at the end of the day, there's a book by a guy called Alan Pease. And one of the things he says is this. He says, questions are the answers. And I'll say it again. You know, a lot of people know this in their mind. But I'm going to ask you this. Do you know how to do it? Is it knowledge? Is it just information? Or is it knowledge? Are questions something that you do all the time? Are you truly, honestly interested in making it all about them and uncovering stuff from them? If you are, questions are the answers. And when you find the answers, you will dramatically close deals, increase the amount of deals you get, and grow your sales. So before I finish off, I'm just going to ask you, have you guys got any questions? Any questions? Anything I can answer? Anything in your mind? If you want to open up your mic, or you want to type it in based on what we've been talking, you know, any ahas that you have, you know, just bring them up, and I will do my absolute best to help answer it for you. Okay, I'll give you a couple of seconds if you want, and just remember that there's never a wrong question. Well, there is. There's one. Anyone know what the one stupid or wrong question is? It's the one that we don't ask. It's just the one we don't ask. Just remember this, you only know what you know. And until you uncover what you don't know, that's where you're going to get stuck. So any questions?
I think it was very, very clear to me. Thank you, Barry. And extremely valuable, the ask, and a lot of people, and I think this is the reason why a lot of people don't like sales, because they had a bad experience with a salesperson that didn't ask, but just, like you said, vomited all over the customer and wasn't really interested in the customer, but trying to be impressive and interesting themselves.
Yeah.
So that's not what sales is all about. And thank you very much for pointing that out, because I think the world needs more salespeople like that, and we'll be solving a lot more problems like that.
Yeah. Solving a lot of problems, changing a lot of people's lives, and making a lot of money if that's something you want to do at the same time. You know, and just when it comes to money, you know, it is a sticking point for many people in sales. You know, people say, well, I don't really need to make a lot of money. I don't know about you. I want to make a massive difference in this world. And the bigger the difference I want to make in the world, I need money to be able to do that. You know, I live on a continent that probably has more poverty than anyone else in the world. And you know, if one of my dreams is to house thousands of people, I need money to build houses, which means I need to be able to sell really well and teach other people how to sell so they create income so you can make a change. So, you know, great leaders sell. People that make change sell. So, yeah.
Barry, can you tell us the story about the laundromat machine, laundromat business that you were helping single moms with? Because that really was some awesome example of how you can make sales into a solution for a community of people.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, my wife bought a business, and it was a little laundromat business. And when she went in, there was a group of ladies, 7 or 8 ladies, who most of them were single moms. One of the things, and not that being a single mom is a problem, but in Africa, there's a lot of single moms that have never been married, so it's just, there's a culture of lots of single moms, and it creates a burden on them, and they often don't have the community around them that looks after them. So we encountered a group of women that when my wife bought this business, they were working in the business, and the key thing that happened is they were drastically in debt. They didn't earn a lot of money, but they were in debt. That all of them had borrowed money to buy a lifestyle more than anything else. So there's a couple of things we did. Is one, we took the tools and techniques that we teach, and we taught them how to sell. First of all, we taught them how to sell to themselves, because that was the key thing. Is we had to get them to sell to themselves and why they needed to change their financial situation. So we did some work around little voice mastery, changing their perceptions, changing their little voices, changing that little voice that said, in this job, I'll never be able to get out of debt, never make any money, I don't earn enough. So the first thing we had to do was change that. The second thing that my wife did is she took Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, and once a week for 2 hours, she shut the shop. So like most entrepreneurs wouldn't close the shop. She was like, for 2 hours, it's more important to train the team and get them out of this mindset of being in debt. And the other reason is when it got to the end of the month, all the debt collectors were coming after their money, that the productivity in that business for 4 or 5 days just went. So to shut it down for 2 hours a week, to change that mindset and help them get out of debt was well worth it. It took her about 6 to 12 months to shift mindsets by us teaching them how to sell, teaching them how to get out of little voice mastery, and then teaching them financial literacy through playing Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game every single week. 8 to 12 months later, out of those 8 ladies, 6 or 7 of them were totally out of debt, and for the next 2 years, while we owned that business, never went back into debt again. It dramatically changed where they were in their life, what they did, how they dealt with their kids, how they communicated in their communities, and to the extent that one of the ladies actually went off and started her own laundromat and started creating her own business out of what she learned. And she had been with that business for 20 years, opening every single morning, closing every single night. So, the art of shifting your mindset through sales, connecting with people, creates some dramatic results.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you. That's such a touching story. I heard that in South Africa when I met you, and I thought that might be a great share. Richmond has a question. What if the customer...
Yeah, so Richmond, great question. So what if the customer starts to haggle the price? Do you try to close right there and then, or do you say you'll get back to them with the final price? So Richmond, my answer's this. I just ask them a whole lot of questions. So it all depends. If my price is my price and I know I can't go down, I'll just ask them questions, because the haggling around a price is just an objection. Very rarely is price the real issue. It's just a mask for some other stuff that the client's not dealing with. And if it is the real issue, I want to know that is the real issue. So I won't haggle, and I won't try to close them on my price there and then. I'll go in. Well, closing is asking questions. I will go in and I'll ask them a series of questions. Hey, I understand. So what I'm seeing is you want the price to come down. Okay, good. So what is it about my price that you don't like? Who have you compared this price to before? What was your expectation on what you thought you'd buy? And then if I've really uncovered their problem well, and I've been able to pull out a benefit, then I'll ask them a question. Richmond, what I heard from you is that if you by using this solution, you believe that you'll be able to get X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z is worth that. If I'm getting it wrong, by being able to get a return of that, would it not be worth spending what I've quoted you? Now what you'll start finding is more often than not, it's not price. It might come up, well, you know, Richmond, yes, I really like what you're talking about, but what happens if it doesn't work? Now it has nothing to do with price. It has to do with guarantee or warranty or something like that. Now you can pull in a whole different field. Okay, Richmond, so I'll tell you what I'm hearing is that it's about, you know, if I had a guarantee on this, is that something that would interest you? Or if I got you to pay 50% and then I delivered on the project and you paid on the project once you see it's working, how does that sound? So now you start negotiating in a different way to create a different deliverable, but your price still stays the same. So remember, there's a key difference between price and value. You know, I believe in selling on value, not on price. You know, in my game in sales, I get handed down often when it comes to price. I go to clients and they go, well, I can get another sales trainer who'll do it at a third of your price. I go, great. I'm pretty sure you can. In fact, I say to clients, I tell you what, if price is the thing, I have some great sales trainers that I know, they'll do it at a third of my price as well. Do you want their names? But what I'll do is I'll go back in and I'll ask them. I understand. However, let me ask you this. In what I took you through earlier, those tools and techniques, if I can teach you those tools and techniques in the way that I teach, is that not, and you can get those results? You see, I always go back to you can get the results. And sometimes a client, you know, I've just had it with the client. I quoted them a price for my training in the thing. They had a budget. It was down here. When I got talking to them, they fully understand my value. They fully understand what I do because I did a free event to show them what I do. But they just don't have the budget to get up there. So I said, okay, fine, no problem. So what I did is they wanted 22 days over the year worth of training. So I said, okay, what happens if we cut those days, we train the same amount of people, but we cut those days down into 12, which means I now leverage my time. I don't work 22 days, I work 12, but I teach the same amount of people. They were like, that could work. So now what we did is I created more value for my time. They still operate within budget to get their whole team trained, and we win. That came out of asking questions. Does that make sense? So I hope that answers that, Richard, if it does. Cool. And just, you know, those of you guys that are going to join us, and hopefully it's all of you that are going to join us in March with the Sales Explosion or the Sales and Leadership Explosion program, you know, these tools and techniques that I've taught you in the 2 days, you'll really learn what I'm talking about in terms of applying them, practicing them, and what I'll guarantee you is in those 2 days, you'll really learn how to apply them in order to earn money. You know, so you'll come in that program and you're not going to get a manual with a whole lot of information and after 2 days leave with tons of information and have to learn how to figure it out. What you'll do is we'll take you through a process in the room where you'll try it, test it, put it into action so that when you leave the room, you go, I know how to do what I learned. It's very different. You'll experience it in that environment. So, you know, what I've been talking about asking questions and moving people through the haggling of price to create value, in those 2 days, you'll learn those tools and techniques. Any other questions before I close out? So before I finish off, if I can just ask you, you know, for me, one of my key drivers when I teach is that I deliver on a form of value. That so if I can ask you guys, this last 45 minutes, did you get value by spending some time with me and with Natalie on this call? Did you learn something? Awesome, thank you. So for me, that's the first and most important thing to me. The second thing is, before I finish off, I just, you know, you've heard me speak about it a couple of times. I'm really excited to be coming to Switzerland, to be in Zurich at the end of March, to come and do a program that we call the Sales and it's called the Sales Explosion Program, or the Sales and Leadership Explosion Program. And the reason it's called Sales and Leadership is that sales is one of the most fundamental skills of good leaders, and all great leaders can also sell. You know, if you look at any of the great leaders that have walked this earth, flown this earth, driven this earth, they've all been great salespeople. You know, and in all areas of life. I mean, we just got a new president in South Africa. Thank goodness. But the old president, man, could he sell? Yeah, he used his sales and communication skills to create a whole lot of other stuff that didn't benefit a whole lot of people, but he could sell. So I'm really excited to be joining you in Zurich. I'll be there from the 19th, 20th of March until the 26th. I've had the opportunity in the last decade of teaching all around the world, but one of the countries that's always been on my dream list is to come to Switzerland. My wife went there when she was a much younger lady, and she's told me about it, and so now I have the opportunity of being able to come and not only do a couple of things. One, I get to come and fulfill something on my dream list, but two, be able to come and do something that I really love, which is working with people to help them create different results in their life. So the Sales Explosion Program, it's going to run through it for you, is from the 23rd and the 24th of March. It's 2 days. It's an intensive program. It is high energy. You know, those of you that have spent time with Natalie, you'll know the methods and methodologies within which she teaches. So that's the system within which I teach, and the system that I've been learning, and I suppose hopefully mastering over the last decade through Blair and through the Blair Singer Training Academy. So March 23rd to the 24th in Zurich is the Sales and Leadership Explosion Program. If you went online and bought it, I think Natalie told me it's 1,795 francs. You know, when she told me what she wanted to do with people on this call, is that the offer that I can make you guys, and I said to her, man, I think she's a little bit crazy, but those of you that know Natalie, you're probably nodding your head. And she said this. She said, those of you on this call today, if you want to come to the Sales and Leadership Explosion Program in March, the cost is 1,295 Swiss francs for the 2 days. But not only is it 1,295 francs, if you pay the 1,295 francs for yourself, you can bring a second person with you for free. And I just said to her, man, wow, that's that for me is an incredible offer from her side. So you know, I would encourage you that if you haven't got your seat already and haven't made a decision, you know, I'd encourage you. What would happen in April, May, and June if you could dramatically switch how you communicate with other people? If you could dramatically change, you know, just if you spent 2 days and just learned, I suppose, some of the techniques that I've taken you through today, if you experience them and learn them and put into practice, what would be the benefits for you? Where would the next 9 months go in your life? What would happen in your businesses, in your life, in your relationships with other people? And you know, to the extent that I really understand the results that we get out of the Sales Explosion Program is that if anyone actually comes to me at the end of the program and says I didn't get value, you know, I have a guarantee on that program that I'm happy that if you spent the weekend with me and you applied yourself, that I'll refund what you paid to get in that room. And I do that on all my programs in South Africa. I just believe value is key. But I understand, you know, the Sales and Leadership Program is not my program. It's a program that I went on 10.5 years ago with Blair Singer. That's why I teach it at a profound effect on my life. And I've been teaching it for a decade, and now teach it around the world, teach it all over Africa. And what I can take you through is it's a program that will dramatically shift your mindset around connecting with people. And it's called Explosion, because you'll learn how to explode your income. And not only income in terms of money, income in terms of relationships, income in terms of health, wealth, and business. So, from me, I sincerely hope you got value out of today. I'm really excited to be coming to Switzerland, to be in Zurich, to spend a week there. And I really look forward to meeting every single one of you on this call, in the room, over those 2 days. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Natalie, for hosting this and putting it on. Really an honor for me to be able to spend the time with you guys. And I'm going to hand back over to Natalie, and she'll wrap it up for us. So Natalie, back to you.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you for your time and for spending this hour to really elaborate what it is that you understand in the sales and leadership. And I think, how many of you got a lot of value out of it? Yes, thank you. So what I just want to quickly share with you is it's not a joke, and it's the truth, that you're going to have your own sales explosion with your own products and inside the room. And when I was in Poland last year on my sales explosion, we were doing 5.6 million of people's own products in 10 minutes. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you. And the other thing I wanted to share with you is that in my own business, I went from doing $500 in April turnover to $34,000 in October by using the techniques. And that was after the program in Poland. So it's not a joke. And I really want you to come. And that's why we're giving you this ridiculous offer. So whoever's interested, you can private message me or send me an email right after this call. So it's good until tonight, this offer. Good? And I think Alina is going to be there anyway. Alina, you don't feel too well, Alina? No? No? You've been to GBI? No? Okay. All right. I hope you feel better soon. Yes. Hope you feel better soon. Okay. All right. So thank you all for being on this call. Let's open up the mics and give a nice applause to Barry for taking the time to guide us through this process. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, folks.
Yes, thank you.
Be blessed. Be good. Look forward to seeing you in March.
Thank you. Yes, me too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.